You got this. You got this. You're the wizard. You're a fireball throwing wizard. You're a hero. And you look great. You and this.
Hello everyone, welcome to this new video. So today's concept is about how to find the square root of a complex number, and then the important application of De Moivre's theorem and some important conclusions that can be drawn from the cube roots of unity. So these are the concepts that we're gonna discuss in today's video, and like the chapter is complex numbers, so most probably it may take some other couple of videos to go to the next chapter of algebra. So starting today's lecture, so the first segment of this video is square root of a complex number. So how to find the square root of a complex number. So there are many techniques. Basically there's a conventional technique and there's an unconventional technique, where in the conventional technique we use a standard procedure like standard formula to find the square root of a complex number. But in the unconventional way, people actually try to make square term like in the term in which we involve a square, so that the square root and the square gets cancelled and we get the we find the square root of it. So both the methods are preferable and actually need to be decided by the peer based on the question that's been given to him. So most probably using the formula method is best as per my my suggestion, because the way we need to modify each and every term is somewhat tough in the unconventional procedure. So the conventional procedure is what I'm gonna teach. So yeah, I shall use the blue ink. So if I take any complex number, z is equal to x plus iy. So this is my complex number that I have taken in consideration. And now the first thing is I'll just and also if I assume suppose root over x plus iy is equal to a plus ib. So the square root of this complex number is another complex number, that is a plus ib. So this is what if I assume. Now I'll just square on both sides. So I get x plus iy is equal to a plus ib whole square, and this is x plus iy is equal to a square plus b square plus 2aib. Fine. So this is what I'm gonna get. So it's not right to write in this way, so I'll just write in perfect way, I into 2ab. Fine, this is how we need to write. And now we can compare the real parts and the imaginary parts. So real part is x and here a square plus b square, and imaginary part is y and 2ab. So let us compare that. So we get x is equal to a square minus b square and y is equal to 2ab. So this is what we gonna get. And now a square, now to find the value of a square plus b square, so why am I finding this, I'll let you know at the last. So a square plus b square is equal to, we know this, that is a minus b whole square. Sorry, this is a square plus b square, right? So a square plus b square is a square minus b square whole square plus 4a square b square, isn't it? Because a square minus b square whole square is a power 4 plus b power 4 minus 2a square b square, and here plus 4a square b square, so totally plus 2a square b square, that is a square plus b square whole square. So this is basically, and a square minus b square is what we have got to be x, and 4a square b square is 2ab whole square, so that means it's y square. So that's the reason I just wanted to include these two terms. So that is x square plus y square. And what is x square plus y square? So it's nothing but the modulus, so it's modulus of z. So a square plus b square is equal to modulus of z. This is an important conclusion again that we need to keep in mind. And now, so from if I assume this has my equation 1, fine, this has my equation 1, and the second equation is this, a square minus b square is this, a square minus b square is equal to x, because we have a square plus b square here, a square minus b square here, so we can find the individual components, that is a and b. So from here, so we shall just add them, a square plus b square is what we have got, that to be mod z, and a square minus b square is what we got that to be x. So if we just add them, we get 2a square value to be mod z plus x, and we get a square value to be mod z plus x divided by 2, and a value to be root over mod z plus x divided by 2. So this is the value of a, and this is, and in the same way if we just subtract them, okay, so just subtract them, we get 2b square is equal to mod z minus x. So we get b square is equal to mod z minus x divided by 2. So b is equal to root over mod z minus x divided by 2. So this is the imaginary part. Fine, a plus ib, right? So this is the imaginary part of the result that we're gonna get after the square root, and this is the real part. So we got the value of a, we got the value of b, and we know the mod z value, we know the x value. So x is basically nothing but real part of z, that is x plus iy, and that's it. And we have got the values of, like, we need here a is equal to plus or minus and b is equal to plus or minus, because this is a square root, right? So we're gonna get two values. So finally like I'll just write the final conclusion from this, that is root z is equal to, so two conditions, plus or minus mod z plus, I'll just represent it by real part of z, because it's not right to represent it as x all the time. So plus or minus root over mod z plus real part of z by 2 plus I times mod z minus real part of z divided by 2. So this is what we want to get. So this is plus or minus root over mod z plus real part of z divided by 2, and plus I root mod z minus real part of z divided by 2, and this is the time, this is when the imaginary part of z is greater than 0. And the second thing is plus or minus root over wait, I shall use the black ink, plus or minus root over mod z plus real part of z divided by 2 minus I times mod z minus real part of z divided by 2. This is when the imaginary part of z is less than 0. When the imaginary part of z is less than 0. So this is how we're gonna classify it. So if the y is negative, so if the y is negative in this part, in this z is called x plus iy, if y is negative, we're gonna use this formula. So this is the second one which we're gonna use, and when if y is positive, we're gonna use this. So direct conclusions we can get from the square, like the complex number that we're gonna consider. So we don't need to waste our time or think a lot about modifying the terms and getting that answer. I don't say it's wrong to do all those things, depending upon the situation, whether you are in an examination or sitting happily or sitting just like that in your home and figuring out new methods. So it depends upon the situation that you are in, and so that's the reason I prefer this method rather than the unconventional method. So like these are the values of root z. So I've taken a simple question here. So in the next video we'll be discussing a lot of examples on every segment that I have been discussing in this video. So in the next video there will be a full video of examples of the total segments that I have discussed in this video. So this is a question that we need to find the square root of this, that is x plus minus x power 4 plus minus x square minus 1 whole root. So here we don't find any complex term. Fine, here we don't find any complex term, but like taking the square root of this, so generally getting an idea of taking the square root of this by using the complex numbers method that I've just discussed right now is a very tough tough logic. So but still using that way we can easily find the square root of this. So how do I do it? So following the unconventional method for this is like toughest task. You need to modify a lot of things in that, and there's a lot of scope of handling mistakes there. So how do you do this? So I'll just use the blue ink. So how do you do this? Because we find a negative term, that is minus 1. So let me take that out first. Like if I take that as common, I get minus 1 of power square root. So I get x power 4 plus x square plus 1, and this is nothing but the I value, right? I is equal to root minus 1. So I can write this to be x plus I of x power 4 plus x square plus 1. And this, if I assume as my z, fine, this is, if I assume as my z, then this gonna be my real part, this gonna be my real part, and this gonna be my imaginary part. And mod of z, So mod of z again, so mod of z is root over x square plus imaginary part square, that is x power 4 plus x square plus 1 whole square. So like if you just like it is a root basically, I forgot that here it is a root, so it is a root here, so it's, yeah, so I'll just erase this. So this is what we're gonna get, this is power root, so 1 by 2 into 2, that is 1, so we're gonna get root over x power 4 plus 2x square plus 1. So this is the value of a mod z, and this is basically x power 4 plus 2x square plus 1 is root x square plus 1 whole square, so x plus 1 whole square whole root, so we're gonna get mod z to be x square plus 1. So this is mod z, so we're gonna take the positive value, so this is the value of mod z. And what's the real part of z? Real part of z is x, and imaginary part of z is root over x power 4 plus x square plus 1. And now yeah, so I have the space here. So as using this, so first of all, how to draw the conclusion here, the y here, this y is always greater than 0, isn't it? Because x power 4 is what we have, x square is what we have, plus 1 is what we have, and root of this will always be greater than 0. Or else you can even like this is the way how do you need to deal it. Fine, so like all these terms are positive, so we will expect this to be greater than 0. So using that, so direct conclusion that we have, that is root of z is equal to plus or minus root over mod z plus real part of z divided by 2 plus I of mod z minus real part of z divided by 2. So this is what square root of z gonna be. So that is I shall use the different thing, root over x plus root over minus x power 4 plus x square minus x square minus x power 4 minus x square minus 1 is equal to plus or minus root over x square plus 1 plus x divided by 2, because the mod z value is x square plus 1 and the real part of z is x, this is total divided by 2, plus I root over x square plus 1 minus x divided by 2. So this is the value of a square root. So we're gonna get two roots, that is plus, if you take plus we're gonna get one complex number, and when you're gonna take minus we'll get another complex number. So this is how you need to find the square root of a complex number. So basically the importance of this question is, so there are all the real terms here, like we don't find any complex term, but if we are interested in taking this minus 1 as the common integer, so then we gonna get the I value here. So because of that reason we have got a complex term, and using this logic, like if we have one complex term given to us, so how to find the square root is just a simple method to us, like we need to use the formula, identify the real part of z and find the modulus of z and then substitute. So this is how we find the square root, and this is the best way I would say. So instead of using all the other unconventional techniques, this is the best technique. So coming to the next segment, so first we'll discuss the important conclusions. First, like I'll not be explaining De Moivre's theorem here, because we all know that De Moivre's theorem and like the definition of it and the formula of it. So like I mean to say what's actually the De Moivre's theorem states, we all know all those things, but from there we can draw some important conclusions. So that's what I want to discuss here. So I just wanted to start some light on them. So I'll be using the blacking. So yeah, the first one is many of the people know all these things, but still I'm discussing this just to make sure that the De Moivre's theorem is used in the right way. It's not like we use it, we simply apply it in any of the like in any of the formats. It's not right, it's not correct to use De Moivre's theorem in that way, like to use it on any format of complex number. So I just wanted to show that here. So first thing is, I'm going to start from the basic, that is cos theta minus I sin theta whole power n is equal to cos n theta minus I sin n theta. Fine. And where for every n belongs to integers. Fine. So the proof is the proof is very simple. So cos theta minus I sin theta whole power n is equal to, first thing we're gonna write it in the pure Euler form, that is cos of minus theta, and we're gonna take this minus inside, so we're gonna get plus of I sin like minus theta whole power n. Fine, because cos of minus theta is cos theta, but sin of minus theta is minus sin theta, so we're gonna get this. And now we'll use the De Moivre's theorem, so we get cos of minus n theta plus I sin minus n theta. So this is what we're gonna get, that is cos, again cos of minus n theta is basically cos n theta, but sin of minus n theta is minus sin n theta. So this is what is this, and again we need to write this, that is for every n belong to I. So this is the first one, and the first important conclusions and its proof. Coming to the second one, oh I already got some space here, fine. So the second one is sin theta plus I cos theta whole power n, fine, and this is I power n cos n theta minus I sin n theta for every n belongs to I. So the proof is, so again and again I'm telling this, I'm just teaching all these things just to make sure you people use the De Moivre's theorem in the right fashion. So sin theta plus I cos theta whole power n is what given to us. First of all, we need to convert this into the Euler's form, that is cos theta plus I sin theta belonging to the imaginary part and cos theta to the real part. So what we're gonna get, so for that reason we're gonna take I outside of this, that is I cos theta. So fine, I shall write it in this way, I of cos theta minus I sin theta whole power n. So this is what we're gonna get, and that is I power n into cos theta minus I sin theta whole power n. So we get I power n into cos n theta minus I sin n theta. So this is what we're gonna get. That's the simple proof that we have, that is for every n belonging to integers. So first thing is that we need to convert this into the Euler's form. It's not like we'll just bring this into this to the theta, it's not right. So we need to bring to the Euler's form and then use the De Moivre's theorem over there. So that's it. And coming to the third point, so I'm not going to use any other slide here. So third point is sin theta minus I cos theta whole power n is equal to minus I whole power n into cos theta plus cos n theta plus I sin n theta, where for every n belongs to integers. So again I'll take the proof here. So the very first and important step is to convert this into Euler's form. That is, now we gonna take minus I common, so that we get this into perfect Euler form state, that is cos theta plus I sin theta whole power n, that is minus I whole power n into cos theta plus I sin theta whole power n, that is minus I whole power n into cos n theta plus I sin n theta, and again every n belongs to integers. So this is the third point. So this is the most important step that we are doing, is converting this into the pure Euler form and then applying it. So the fourth and most important point is, that's what I actually wanted to discuss, also wanted to discuss, that we don't do this type of mistakes if we are conceptually right enough and conceptually understood everything, then we will never do such mistakes, but still there is a chance of it. So that's the reason I want to explain this, that is cos theta plus I sin phi whole power n is never equal to cos n theta plus I sin n phi, fine, where theta is not equal to phi, theta is not equal to phi. So this is not how you apply De Moivre's theorem. You cannot apply De Moivre's theorem, and again for this every n belongs to integer. I don't need to prove this, like we cannot apply De Moivre's theorem. So when you go to the proof, like when you have a look onto the proof of the De Moivre's theorem, you'll understand that this is not the right way. You wanna just apply the De Moivre's theorem in anything just like that. So it's not possible. So I hope you guys understood that. So this is the fourth point, and the fifth point that I just wanted to add it for just for the conclusion purpose, that is 1 by cos theta plus I sin theta is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta whole power minus 1, and this is cos of minus I theta plus I of sin of minus theta. So that is equal to cos theta and minus I sin theta. So that's it. So this is the basic point that we all know. So I just wanted to teach these points, important points, that when we are applying, when are we trying to applying De Moivre's theorem, we need to convert that the complex number into the Euler's form, and then we need to apply it. So coming to the question, this is a small example, I'm just taking one example for every concept, every segment that I'm taking here. So I don't want to cluster this video with all those examples. I'll be taking the next video for these examples and all. So this is find all the roots of the equation x power 6 minus x power 5 plus x power 4 minus x cube plus x square minus x plus 1 is equal to 0. So this is a 6-degree polynomial given to us, and from this we can also conclude that this is in a GP basically. So with the r to be value r is equal to minus x, the ratio to be minus x. So we shall use the sum of 7 terms here to get the simplified version of the LHS. So that is 1 into 1 minus of minus x whole power 7 divided by 1 minus of minus x, and which is equal to 0. Fine. And also we need to conclude that 1 plus x, that's the denominator, should not be equal to 0. Fine. If that's equal to 0, this cannot be defined. So x cannot be equal to minus 1. So this is an important conclusion. And from this equation we also conclude that because this whole term is 0, that means the numerator should be 0. That is 1 plus x power 7 is equal to 0. That is again x power 7 is equal to minus 1. So x cannot be equal to minus 1, but x power 7 should be equal to minus 1. So how do you do it? So only way is to find the complex roots. So to find all the 7 roots of the unity, that is x is equal to minus 1 whole power 1 by 7. And this minus 1 I can represent it as, so cos pi plus I sin pi. So this is the value of minus 1 in complex form, and whole power 1 by 7. And this cos pi plus I sin pi, I can write this as cos of 2n plus 1 pi plus I sin 2n plus 1 pi. Just the way of representing it in the form of odd numbers we are using, that is cos 2n plus 1 pi plus I sin 2n plus 1 pi. Now this is whole part 1 by 7, so using De Moivre's theorem we are going to get cos 2n plus 1 divided by 7 pi plus I sin 2n plus 1 2n plus 1 divided by 7 into pi. So this is what we are going to get. And finally, so this is the value of x we can take. So on depending on the value of n, so n can be 0, 1, 2 and a dot and a 4 and a 5 and a 6. The dot is 3. We are not going to take the value of 3. Why we not going to take the value of 3? Like if I just put the value of n is equal to 3, we are going to get x is equal to cos 7 by 7 pi, that is cos pi, and again this term would be 0. So cos pi is basically minus 1, and x cannot be equal to minus 1. So we are just finding the all other complex roots that are possible for this. So that can be from n is equal to 0, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, all the 6 roots. So these are the 6 complex roots possible for this equation. So coming to the next segment, that is important points of, it's like important properties of cube roots of infinity. So I just want to give you a small glance of what's actually cube roots of infinity, and what we need to, like what value is represented as omega and what's the value of omega square. I just wanted to there exists some confusion between these two, so I just wanted to clarify that. So basically I'll just use the black ink. So like in the previous example we have taken z is equal to 1 power 1 by minus 1 power 1 by 7. So that is for finding 7 roots of minus 1, and now this is cube roots of infinity, that means 3 roots of 1. So that is z is equal to 1 power 1 by 3. and that means z cube is equal to 1, and that means z cube minus 1 is equal to 0. And now applying a cube minus b cube formula, that is a minus b into a square plus b square plus ab, that is z into 1, that is z, is equal to 0. So from this we can conclude that either this is equal to 0 or this is equal to 0. So fine, so if that's the case, so we're gonna get z is equal to 1, and if this is the case, we're gonna get z square plus z plus 1 is equal to 0, and we are able to say a quadratic equation now. So we can use the quadratic formula. So z is equal to minus 1 plus or minus root over 1 minus 4 divided by 2, so that is minus 1 plus or minus root 3 divided by 2. So if I represent, so the totally what are the values that we're going to get? Z is equal to 1 minus 1 plus root 3 divided by 2 and minus 1 minus root 3 divided by 2. So these are the three values of z that we're going to take. So the main confusion is people get confused like what to get omega, like what to consider as omega square and what to consider as omega. There is nothing, like there is no rule regarding any rule specified for it. I shall write this clearly: minus 1 minus I root 3 divided by 2, and this is minus 1. So there is a small mistake here. I have not represented the I here. Like yeah, minus 1 plus I root 3 divided by 2 and minus 1 minus I root 3 divided by 2. So if I consider this as omega, then this would be omega square, and if I consider this as omega square, this could be the omega. So you can just even check out like how do we get this. So it's very simple. I just don't want to deal all those things. Like if this is omega, this could be the omega square, and if we are considering this as omega square, then the other would be the omega. So like one is the real root, like complex, like a cube root of unity. One is the real root, so this is real root, and these both are imaginary. Fine, these both are imaginary roots. So another important point that I'm going to discuss is, like these are not important points, basically the basic set of roots, that's it. So conjugate of omega is equal to omega square. Fine. So and now if I just take the whole square on both sides, so we're gonna get conjugate whole square is equal to omega power 4, which is equal to omega cube into omega, and we know that omega cube is equal to 1, that is omega. So omega bar whole square is equal to omega, and this is the first one. And second one is equal to root omega is equal to plus or minus omega square, isn't it? So that's what we're gonna get. Fine. From this even where is this? Yeah, from this even we can get that is root over omega is equal to plus or minus omega square, and in the same way root omega square is equal to plus or minus omega, like just the vice versa of it, that's it. So if you like, it's just interchanging the positions, that's it. We don't need to like calculate all these things and all. And the third one is, as you all know, that is omega mod of omega is equal to mod of omega square is equal to 1. So that's the reason they are roots, right? So when we represent this in the actual Cartesian plane in the real number system, so we are plotting it in the real number, like real points. So the distance, the mod, that must be 1, like that must be satisfying it. So mod of z is equal, like mod of omega is equal to mod of omega square is equal to 1. And now I'm gonna list out some properties of this that actually are important. So the very first point is, I shall use the black ink for demonstrating all these things. That is first point. 1 plus omega square is equal to 0. This is the very first point. And omega cube is equal to 1. We all know those things, like yeah. And now the second one is like omega power 3n is equal to 1. Omega power 3n plus 1 is equal to omega power 3n plus 2 is equal to omega square. Fine, because omega power 3n, that is omega cube is equal to 1. So omega cube, like omega power 3n can be written as omega cube whole power n. So that means 1 power n is 1, and omega power 3n plus 1 is omega power 3n into omega. So because this is 1, we get omega, and the similar way we're going to get this to be omega square. And third point, 1 plus omega power r plus omega power 2r is equal to 3. Fine, is equal to 3 when r is multiple of 3. Multiple of, I'll just write it in a clear way. When r is multiple of 3, and 1 plus omega r plus omega power 2r is equal to 0, when r is not a multiple of 3. Fine, when r is not a multiple of 3. So you can just even check that out. I don't need to explain or prove it, so you can just check it on your own self, that 1 plus omega power r plus omega power 2r is equal to 3 when r is multiple of 3 and 0 when r is not multiple of 3. And in the similar fashion, we all know, we can even say that cube roots like minus 1 whole power 1 by 3 has the roots to be minus 1, minus omega and minus omega square. And also the fifth point that I actually want to state is like this one. So fifth point is, if a complex number, for example a complex number a plus ib is taken, fine, a complex number a plus ib, and if I say that a is to b is equal to 1 is to root 3 or root 3 is to 1, fine, a is to b is 1 is to root 3 and or root 3 is to 1, like a is to b ratio, the real part and the imaginary part, fine. So that means 1 plus I root 3, if I take this 1 plus I root 3, I am going to get 1 is to root 3 ratio, and this is basically minus of minus 1 minus I root 3, fine. I have just taken the minus common so that I can write this minus 1 minus I root 3, and if I just multiply and divide by 2 on I am going to get minus 2 minus 1 minus I root 3 divided by 2, fine, and this number is basically our omega square, so minus 2 omega square. So this 1 plus I root 3, I can even write this in this form, that is minus 2 omega square. I just wanted to like if the a is to b ratio, only like if your complex number has a is to b ratio, that's real part is to imaginary part in this ratio, 1 is to root 3 or root 3 is to 1, then you can write them in this form, that is like in the omega form. And the second one is if it is a root 3 is to 1, that is root 3 plus I, that is basically, now you can just multiply and divide by I. So root 3, so when you multiply and divide by I, you're going to get I of root 3 plus I divided by I, and this when you multiply it inside, we're going to get I into I, that is minus 1, and I into root 3 as I root 3, so divided by I. And this like if you just multiply and divide by 2, so you're going to get 2 of minus 1 plus I root 3 divided by 2i, and this is again our omega. So we're going to get 2 omega by I, because we have I here, so we're going to get 2 omega by I, so we can even write this as minus 2i omega, fine, because this I can write this as minus 2 omega, like 2 omega by I can write this as minus 2 omega I square divided by I, because I square is minus 1 into minus it's plus, so I can write this in this way, so I gets cancelled, I'm going to get minus 2i omega. So this is how I can represent my root 3 plus I. So if the ratio of real part and imaginary part are in the ratio of 1 is to root 3 or root 3 is to 1, then we can write it in this way. So comment the last segment of this. So this is a like what are these values actually, I just wanted to tell this, like this is 1 comma 0, this point is 1 comma 0, and this is minus half root 3 by 2, this is minus half root 3 by 2, and this is minus half minus root 3 by 2, fine. This is this minus 1 minus half minus root 3 by 2 and 1 comma 0 and minus 1 by 2 root 3 by 2, and this is in first and this is in second and this is in third coordinate, fine. So why am I writing all these things? As we know, the cube roots of unity are, this is 1, this is omega if I consider, and this could be the omega square. So these three, the modulus of omega and modulus of omega square is equal to 1, isn't it? So these three lie on a unit circle, means the circle radius is 1, so these all lie in a unit circle, and also these form the vertices, fine. Like if I just join them, yeah, if if I just join them with the black pen, yeah, so if I just join them in this way, these form the vertices of a equilateral triangle. So these form the vertices of a equilateral triangle. That means all these lie in an equilateral triangle, like all these three vertices, these three are the vertices of a equilateral triangle inscribed in a unit circle and having center at the origin, fine. This is the center of this circle. So these are all the important points that you need to remember. So one vertex is on the positive x-axis, like positive real axis, and two other are on the like unit circle, fine. Like all these three on the unit circle, like other two are on this like second quadrant and the third quadrant. So this is omega and this is omega square. So this is a very most important point. And also using the properties of circle, so if I just draw the remaining lines, like if I just join these lines, this one, and this one, and yeah, this one and this one. So we're gonna get like I can just say that using the properties of circle, that is this angle and this angle, like you can just join this line in this way. So this angle and this angle, all these are equal to 2 pi by 3. Fine, 2 pi by 3, like equally like equal angles, 2 pi by 3, 2 pi by 3 and 2 pi by 3. So when you add them up, you're going to get 2 pi, and that's the 360 degrees, right? So by using geometry, circle properties, we can find this to be 2 pi by 3, 2 pi by 3, 2 pi by 3. Or we don't even need to use all those things. We can just use the cosine rule and we can find the angles between these two sides, because these are equilateral triangle, and we also know the side lengths. So it's 1 comma 0, it's 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2 root 3 by 2. We can even find the distance from the equilateral triangle. So we can even use the cosine rules to find all these things. And so this is an important segment. And now using the cube roots of unity in the general equations, like general equation stuff and all. So how do we use that? As the very first point is a square plus ab plus b square. I can represent this as a minus b omega into a minus b omega square. So I'm not going to proving all those things, I'm just listing out them. So a square plus ab plus b square can be written as a minus b omega into a minus b omega square. Second one, a square minus ab plus b square can be written as a plus b omega into a plus b omega square. Fine, you can even check that out. You can just multiply the terms in the RHS, you're going to get that LHS. The third one is a cube plus b cube can be written as a plus b into a plus b omega into a plus b omega square. And fourth one, a cube minus b cube can be written as a minus b into a minus b omega into a minus b omega square. So this is how we're going to get a cube minus b cube. And the fifth point, that is a square plus b square plus c square minus ab minus bc minus ca is equal to a plus b omega plus c omega square into a plus b omega square plus c omega. Fine. And the same fashion, a square, like a cube plus b cube plus c cube minus 3abc can be written as a plus b plus c into a plus b omega plus c omega square into a plus b omega square plus c omega. Fine, these are all the important points, like the relations that we can use in the normal form of equations, like converting a real equation into a complex form. And like we are using all those cube roots of unity terms, right? So this is how we can just manipulate them, like we can just modify them and we can use this. So one of the most important question, like just to illustrate all these concepts just in a single question. So I've taken this question that I shall use the blue ink to solve this. Like if p, q, r are the roots of this equation, x cube minus 3x square plus 3x plus 7 is equal to 0, then we need to find the value of p minus 1 by q minus 1 plus q minus 1 by r minus 1 plus r minus 1 by p minus 1. So first of all, the given equation is x cube minus 3x square plus 3x plus 7 is equal to 0. So this is the cubic equation that is given to us. And now we can, if we clearly observe this, this is basically nothing but x minus 1 cube plus 8 is equal to 0. You can just add 1 and subtract 1. So you're gonna get x minus 1 whole cube, that's x cube minus 3x square plus 3x, and the remaining term that is equal to minus 1. That's the reason we have subtracted minus 1 and added plus 1. So this is x minus 1 whole cube plus 2 cube is equal to 0. Fine. So this is what we're going to get. And now we already saw that a cube minus b cube can be written as a cube plus b cube can be written as a plus b into a plus b omega into a plus b omega square. So using that, I can write this in this fashion, that is x plus 1 x minus 1 plus 2 into x minus 1 plus 2 omega into x minus 1 plus 2 omega square is equal to 0. Fine. So this is what we're going to get, that is x plus 1 into x minus 1 plus 2 omega into x minus 1 plus 2 omega square is equal to 0. So going to the next piece. So we're going to get x is equal to minus 1 and 1 minus 2 omega 1 minus 2 omega square. So these are the values of x. So these are the roots basically, p, q, r. So I can just write this to be p is equal to minus 1, q to be 1 minus 2 omega, and r to be 1 minus 2 omega square. So we'll just substitute them, that is p minus 1 by r minus 1 is the first term, that is like p minus 1 divided by q minus 1 plus q minus 1 divided by r minus 1 is and also there is a third term, that is r minus 1 divided by p minus 1, which is equal to, substituting them we are going to get minus 2 by 2 omega plus minus 2 omega by minus 2 omega square plus minus 2 omega square divided by 2. So we are going to get 1 by omega, fine, 1 by omega, and we also have minus 2 omega here. So 1 by omega plus 1 by omega plus omega square is what we're going to get. That is, after taking LCM, we're going to get this to be omega square. So or else we can take this here, like 1 by omega is basically omega square, because we know like omega cube is equal to 1. So I can write this omega into omega square is equal to 1. So I can write omega to be 1 by omega square, or like omega square or 1 by omega. So I've just used those things, like omega square plus this is omega square plus this is omega square. So totally we're going to get this value to be 3 omega square. So this is the answer. So this answer is 3 omega square. I hope you guys understood this. So these are all the segments that we had this in our today's lecture. So I've just tried to explain all the important concepts of De Moivre's theorem, the application of De Moivre's theorem, and how to find the square root basically. So in the next video we'll take plenty of examples, and I'll try to illustrate all those examples and give an extra clarity to the concept that I taught in this video. So thank you guys for watching this video. Stay tuned.